If your idea of sword fighting comes from video games or Hollywood, then you've been lied to. It's not cinematic at all, it's not flashy, and it definitely doesn't last minutes. It's raw, brutal, and unforgiving. And if you don't know how it really works, then you just thinking about fantasy, and I don't really blame you. Today I'm going to exactly show you why you're been lied to about sword fighting and why HEMA deserves your full respect. Sword fighting is short and brutal. In a real duel without armor, the fight ends under 10 seconds, sometimes even 3. There's no dramatic clashing, there's no spinning moves or sword dances like in a theater, because it takes only just one hit to your hand, to your leg or to your neck, and you're pretty much done. You're not thinking about glory when you're fighting, you're trying to survive. And once fear, blood and stress get involved into this, most people fold fast. And that's what modern media won't show you, how quickly things spiral down once fear takes over you. And if you're not trained to react properly, then it's already too late for you. If you want to feel what it's like, go spar someone in a HEMA club. You'll never think about sword fighting the same again. HEMA is your window into the past. HEMA, which stands by Historical European Martial Arts, gave me a real connection into the history of sword fighting, not through theory, but real movement. It taught me that sword fighting isn't just random moves, it's a refined martial art passed down through centuries by different schools of thoughts, which requires precision, timing and a sharp mind. And most of all, HEMA teaches you to be ready when everything's on the line. It teaches you that sword is not just a toy, it's a survival tool. Hi, my name is Michael Kozin, and before we go further, I want to tell you quickly that my mission is to help young guys to stop their video games addiction through training real-life longsword. Next in line is I want to myth bust some myths that are created by not knowledgeable people, and they are lingering inside our society about medieval sword fighting. The first common myth is that people think that longswords are heavy. Not at all. The longsword is made for balance, maneuverability and speed. It weighs only 1 kilogram and 1 to 1 kilogram and 6, and for my American friends it's from 2.5 pounds to 3.5 pounds. Myth number 2 is that longer sword equals harder to control. Not at all. If your technique is right, and if you grip your sword with both hands, it gives you much more fluidity and control over one object when you're holding with both hands than one-handed weapons, which by contrast require of you more strength in your arm, more finesse and more control. Myth number 3 is that sword fights last forever. The truth is, and I'm speaking from experience, it ends after 1 or 2 exchanges. That's all it takes. HEMA taught me that if your tempo, control and speed is not right, then you're done within seconds. Myth number 4 is that swords were the main battlefield weapons. The truth is, polearms dominated medieval warfare. They were much longer and much easier to use by common peasants in tight formations and much cheaper to produce by blacksmiths. In contrast, swords and longswords were most commonly owned by noblemen, townspeople and garrisons. Of course, most people who owned swords, so these kind of people like knights, noblemen, they were trained to use them properly. That's like today's military training to use pistols, but pistols are not used, they're not the main battlefield weapon like rifles, you know. So if you're going with a sword to a battlefield, it's like showing you don't have enough gear prepared for the battle ahead. Myth number 5 is that all cool looking swords could be used in a fight. The truth is, the real longsword and sword were created, they were optimized for their functionality. The width, size, the grip structure and design, the length, they were all shaped for purpose. So fantasy swords you see in movies or video games, they were often deadly for the person that holds them. They are mostly unusable in real life. Myth number 6 is that the weight of the sword made it deadly. It depends. It's not always about the weight. It's about the structure of the longsword, how you move with it, how you deliver the strike through the blade, and so on. That's why the swordplay is so little. Of course, there are specific techniques that are made to fight an armored opponent. One of them is called Mordhau, which is where you grab by both hands the blade, your blade, yes, the blade, to deliver the strikes with your crossguard or with pommel. And then the longsword becomes this like proto-blunt weapon. And the other technique, hold your sword with the main hand on your grip and your offhand, or the other way around, on the blade, and it's called half swording. Of course, you can block with the blade the incoming attacks, but it's made to precisely strike your opponent in the gaps of his armor. So most commonly it's the neck, if your opponent doesn't have a gorget, between your arms and crotch. So yeah, you deliver it. And it's also used to effectively grapple your opponent and bring him down. The last myth is that people think if you have more skill in the blade, it automatically equals to more chance to win in a fight. The truth is, it depends, because the most important thing in a fight is the context. It always depends on the space you're surrounded in, the footing you have, the opponent's weapon you're facing, your own fitness. All these factors into what really works in a fight. There's one thing that almost no game or movie gets right: the context of the fight. It's not always about who's stronger or more skilled with a longsword. It's about where you are, what you're wearing, how you're feeling, who you're facing. It all factors into what actually works. And I'm going to give you some examples. Imagine this. You're fighting in a tight corridor. The longsword might actually be less maneuverable because of it. And actually, sometimes shorter weapons might be more useful. The second example I can think of is when the weather gets rainy and the ground gets really muddy, and every step becomes dangerous for you, because if you slip once, it means the end for you. If you're going uphill when your opponent is above you, it probably means you can lose your momentum fast and your opponent could strike down with a full force. Imagine if you're walking in a narrow alley with crowds of people around you. You might not even see an attacker coming from your side. There's no room to move, and you have to be mindful about not accidentally hitting or wounding a civilian near you. Maybe it's a night and you're tired. You'll easily misjudge your distance and it's over for you before it even starts. Wearing new gear or armor you're not used to. This could mean that it will tire you out fast and your reaction will slow down. Or maybe you're facing someone deranged. They're full psycho and they're really unpredictable. You can't always rely on textbook techniques to defeat them, because they will probably play dirty. they'll probably, maybe, have a pocket sand to throw at you and launch at you. Or maybe they'll have a dagger hidden in their pocket or behind them. Every small detail matters. What's in your hands, what's in your opponent's hands, what's beneath your feet. Even your mental state matters. HEMA teaches you how to properly read these things. It teaches you how to properly react to sword fighting, which is pure chaos. Sword fighting is not clean or fair, it's pure survival. The one thing that shocked me the most in HEMA was how small the winning moments are. It's not a big cinematic cut. It's always the small things, like a little half step, a little feint, a little tempo shift. 1 inch. HEMA made me see how a fight ends not with a big clash, but with a small, fast and quiet little strike to the head that your opponent never sees coming. I thought that sword fighting would be this big and flashy experience. Turns out it's very subtle, and that's what makes it deadly. If you start training solo footwork by your own, you'll see how deep this art really goes. HEMA deserves your respect, because HEMA is not fantasy, it's not cosplay, it's a martial art that teaches you clarity under pressure, control under chaos. When you pick up a blade, you're picking up responsibility, and that should require your full respect. And if this sparks something in you and you want to start your sword path for real, then I created a space for you to do that. It's called From Gamer to Swordsman, and it's my program where I built a longsword beginners course and community for guys who have zero experience in HEMA. Of course, I will make free content, but if you want to speed up your progress and get personalized feedback from me, I think you'll love the community. Go check the link down in the description. And remember, always take the initiative.